Welcome back to Venting with V. It's Veronica Mari, and I'm super excited for this episode. First of all, I wanted to say happy Thanksgiving, but I'm just not even sure if that's politically correct anymore. But, 'tis the season for y'all who like turkey or whatever else it is. Anyway, so today we're going to talk about labels. Let's get it. So, as I said, today we're going to talk about labels. And the thing that made me interested in this is, okay, so recently I've just been challenging myself to kind of follow the yellow brick road, right? Initially, when I began, I had this concept that labels aren't inherently bad. We just like to know what to expect because it's the survival instinct in us, knowing how we can prepare for the future. But then I thought about it, and it's okay to predict what the weather is going to look like. It's okay to predict what an animal might do, and so we hide or run the other side to protect ourselves. And then I thought about it, and I don't think it's such a healthy thing with people. And I think that's where a lot of problems come from, is in our desire to predict people's behavior, to predict how our interaction is going to be. We tend to carry on stereotypes. And this is problematic when it comes to racial dynamics, but I think it's also problematic when it comes to gender and to profession. Initially, I thought it's a normal thing that we're just trying to, it's just like the instinct in us desiring to survive, knowing what role we play in this situation, what's going to come about from this interaction. But the more I thought about it and the more I said it out loud, the more I realized what a terrible thing it is, that every time we come across someone who seems to fit a certain box shape, we address them in a certain way because we've fixed them in that category. And I'm kind of glad that things unfolded this way, because now I'm realizing that I do that too. And I don't just do this with other people, but I do that with myself. For me, the way I have internalized it is I've always been seen a certain way, as timid or as reserved, or I don't know, just like different ways people have seen me, or like maybe someone sees you in a bad light and you kind of carry that perspective on you, that shame or just that expectation. You start to expect it of yourself, and it's a dangerous thing, because when I was in this situation, I was within a large group of people, right? But within that large group of people with similar interests, there are subgroups, and I found myself unable to interact with people because a part of me was trying to be loyal to the labels that were placed on me. And I allowed it to play out because I was like, kind of now becoming an observer within my life and just looking at trying to be conscious of the thoughts going through my mind at that time. Well, I can't speak to these people because I'm not confident like them. I can't speak to these people here because I don't talk like them. I can't speak to these people here. Like, there are all these labels of how I've always seen myself or how people have seen me. And it made me kind of freeze, because I was like, damn, it feels like no one here is like me. So what should I do? And, just like basic, the essence of human connection is finding similarities. And I completely had lost that in that moment. And I just wanted to talk about, labels and categories and the two subgroups I believe that they fall under, or rather I should say the core reasons of why we tend to draw toward labels. Number one, we draw to labels because of security, and number two, because of identity. Security. Okay, so we all have a script of what to do, and this script usually provides predictable results. So if I'm the artist, let's say that, you've labeled yourself, I'm just a creative. So if you're a creative, you kind of have a script to go by, But then the problem comes is, what if you're an artist who's also into science, who's also into intellectual debate? So then that part of you has kind of been suppressed because you're like, this doesn't go with the script, So it holds back an aspect of you from developing. And when we know what to expect, it gives us less anxiety about the future. So if you know, people tend to appreciate me when I'm funny. So I'm going to remain in this funny category because this way I can predict that people are going to accept me. And secondly, knowing what to expect from others makes us feel more comfortable around them. In other words, it's lazy. You're not willing to find out the unique and intricate details about this person. You're like, I'm just going to go off of this script of this is what hip young kids are like, or this is, all those kind of lame titles. And when we have that, it makes us feel more comfortable around them because we then have a script of how we should respond to them. In other words, it helps us know what our role is, which always goes back to security. We want to know we have a place. We want to know we can be able to sound smart enough around them, to be confident around them, and all of those things. I think we also label others because it makes us more sure of ourselves. It helps us know where we fit in. And I recently had a discussion with two guys, and they're both in the art scene. One of them is into the acting and film world, and the other one is into the music sound engineering world, kind of. And we were just discussing like how unique each person's perspective is. And then they were going, I don't remember the exact terminology, but we're going into like the science of sound. And they were saying how because of even the shape of your head and just because of how you've been built physically, even sound is not exactly the same to other people. Like in how everyone hears sound is not the exact same. And that like just blew my mind. I find that so disturbing. I find it so disturbing how none of us have the exact same perspective. None of us see blue the exact same way. Like some of us tie blue to an emotion, to a memory. Some of us think of water. For some of us, blue is calming. Others, blue can be depressing. Like we don't see the world the same way. And now I'm finding out that even with sound, scientifically, we don't all hear sound the exact same way. And it just like, it's so humbling because then you realize how much more important it is to just listen and just receive other people. Because that's literally the only way we'll ever get into their world and see things through their eyes. And so the second reason that we tend to draw toward labels is because labels suggest identity. We all just kind of want to know who we are. And when we can't figure it out, we tend to draw from things with an appropriated value. For example, clout chasing. Okay, so going back to this day when I had this kind of eye-opening moment, we started talking and we were backstage. And some people were kind of trying to like get sneak peeks and like pictures of the set and possibly some of the actors. And honestly, that would be super cool. And I don't want to sound judgmental, but I just like to analyze why we do what we do. And so I started, I was talking to a friend and I was like, why do we tend to take pictures of celebrities? Like, aren't there already pictures of celebrities online? Like, why do we need to do that? And then we started talking about clout chasing. And then I started thinking more about how we just have an innate desire for identity. And when this is like a celebrity, someone who people already appreciate, we feel just by proximity, we have become more important. I don't know. You might think this is a little bit out there, but I think it's an interesting thing to think about. And I think that's why we tend to draw toward people who we like, because number one, it's more comfortable. And number two, we feel like our identity is kind of built through them. If I have friends who are smart, that makes me smart. If all my friends are pretty, it makes me part of the pretty or cool gang or whatever it is. And so we draw to labels because we're trying to define ourselves. But I think it's very uncomfortable to say I am all these things and I am all these people, because then the question is, okay, then what's my script? And if there is no script, that's basically goes into improv, right? You're improvising now. You're basically going with the flow, which, brings me to my most important point. Okay, so number one, labels give us a sense of purpose. It's very frustrating to be free flowing because you don't even know what to expect of yourself. And if you don't know what to expect of yourself because you're going with what the situation entails, then that means you don't know how to predict other people's reaction to you, which goes back to our desire for security. So it's easier to just do what has always worked. In other words, be what people have always accepted you as being. But I actually think it's a really beautiful thing to be free flowing, and here's why. The last 2 years of my life have been like beyond uncomfortable. I cannot even describe them. And I moved from like different kind of job, like from one job to like another, very different jobs, like unrelated. Some of them I liked, some of them I despised. And it was weird because when I liked the job, I was obviously when you like a job, you're comfortable talking about it. Like when people ask you, so what are you up to? You're like, well, is that part of us? Because we've kind of drawn our identity from what we do. And then I noticed a pattern that because my job was changing so much, I didn't know who I was anymore. And that was like such a moment of growth for me, because I realized I can no longer define myself by my occupation, which I had to dig deeper. So who am I? And then I started drawing toward personality traits about myself. Can I hold on to this? And then I realized, oh snap, even my personality is developing, it's transforming, it has layers. We know we're 3D characters. And sometimes we feel like we have to just be this one square, but we're so dynamic and there's so many aspects of us where, sometimes we describe people as emotional, but the fact is we all have emotions. You're not just this one thing. So basically where I am now is acknowledging I am becoming. So if someone asks me, so who are you? I'm becoming. First of all, I am a child of God. Like that's my steady identity. And apart from that, I am simply becoming. I love music today. Who knows? 20 years from now, I won't love music. Does that mean I'm no longer a musician? You are not what you do. You're not what you wear. You're not how much you have. You're not even the people in your life or the absence of people in your life. You're not that either. You are simply becoming. And this has given me such grace for myself, because previously I would force myself, especially in social situations. Oh gosh, like I don't want to stand alone. What are people going to think about me? That I just have poor social skills, that I'm a loser. And so then I would kind of force myself to just like stop inside a group and just like talk for the sake of it, even though I was like clearly not interested in that conversation. And it's all just this pressure of what does this mean about me? And now that I've realized I am becoming, I'm able to say this moment doesn't define me. I am learning from this moment. I'm growing in this moment. I'm living in this moment. I'm feeling this moment. And when this moment passes, I'm going to let it go. And I'm going to move on to the next one. And even if that's you and you're trying something new and you feel like you're failing at it, have grace for yourself, because at the end of the day, you're becoming. And even when you have attained that thing you want, guess what? You'll still not be 100% satisfied, because then you'll start wondering, okay, what's the next thing? There's always going to be a next thing, because the truth is we're becoming. And for the rest of our lives, we'll be becoming. And so I just wanted to let you know too, if you're in a position where for years of your life, you've kind of been this same thing, you've refused yourself to change, you've refused to open up yourself to new ideas, to new thoughts, to new activities, to new people, it's okay, you're becoming. And at any point in time, you can choose to move forward, you can choose to change. And I also did want to speak about another aspect of becoming, going back to my experience of shifting between jobs and between interests and friends here, and then losing those friends, and then getting new friends, and then losing those friends. And you get to this point where you're so uncomfortable. Like it's like, imagine like if you're flying to Hawaii, it's a few hours, right? And that's fine because you're not going to be in the air forever. But the problem is when you're becoming, it might be a while before you touch ground again. And that's extremely uncomfortable. And what happens is, if you're in that place and it's uncomfortable enough, you're going to start drawing to the thing that's most familiar to you, because you want to go back to that script. So I think it's important to become comfortable with the uncomfortable. And I also just wanted to kind of touch on the negative aspects of labels. Number one is they hinder us from being three-dimensional. Number two is they limit our opportunities. If, for instance, you've always seen yourself as a businessman or a businesswoman, and you have this new opportunity and it requires a different aspect of yourself that doesn't fit with the label or the script you had before, you'll turn it down. You'll feel like, it's not for me. Maybe it is. Maybe it's time for a new you. But when you're so stuck on doing what's familiar, you'll lose a lot of opportunities. And I'm not saying like we should just like keep going to and fro and lack any consistency or stability. I'm just saying be able to determine within yourself where that decision is coming from and determine what's true for you. And thirdly is labels make us feel stuck. I know I certainly felt like that. I felt like, well, this is what I went to school for, so it means this is all I should do with my life. Or this is what people think of me, which means this is all I can be. Sometimes people make us feel, okay, actually I shouldn't say people make us feel, because people can't make us feel anything. But I'm just saying sometimes we've been in situations where, you just have always been seen in a certain light. Now you feel stuck. You feel like there's no life for you outside of that. And yeah, that's what labels can do to you. And then the last thing is labels can cause us to be judgmental and or to misunderstand others, because you've placed them in a category or you've placed yourself in a category. And when the person you're in a relationship with, platonic or romantic, whichever, when they're no longer following the script or playing the role that they've always played, it makes us feel very uncomfortable. Like we have to shove them back and show them like where their lane is. And so it makes us take away other people's freedom from change, and from being different. And this can put a lot of pressure on relationships. And also it can put a lot of pressure in ourselves when you have a desire to change, but you're feeling stuck, or rejected. My biggest takeaway for you would be God and you are the experts of you. And sometimes we're blessed enough to have people who see more potential in us than you see in ourselves. But I want you to know that only God and you are the experts of you. So, it's okay to make mistakes as you're learning, calculated mistakes. But you know what? Be confident in what you believe. Be confident in what you know to be your truth, and be willing to face the consequences for the right thing. You and God are the only experts of you. With that in mind, go and have some turkey, okay? Have a wonderful week. Bye.